This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
The sudden arrival of boiling black clouds, threatening another of the violent thunderstorms that visit the Akron, Ohio area in late summer, had brought a cool break in the tedious August heat. It was Monday afternoon, August 11, 1980, and Detective Lieutenant Larry Monchello was hurrying from the Summit County Sheriff's Office toward the parking garage in the courthouse basement, his thoughts far removed from the weather. Stepping his pace up to a jog, he dug in his pocket for car keys even before reaching his car. A few steps behind, his new partner hurried to catch up. Minutes earlier, Monchello had been upstairs sitting at a desk in the office of the county prosecutor, completing paperwork on a series of blue-collar crime cases he had been working, when the sheriff summoned him with an urgency in his voice that hinted to Monchello that his reports might have to wait for some time. A detective with the police department in Bath Township, a nearby Akron suburb, had called to request help in the investigation of a homicide. In the sheriff's office, Monchello had listened to the sketchy details his superior provided, sighed, shook his head, and said nothing until he was out in the hallway. As he impatiently watched the blinking lights signal the course of the antiquated, slow-moving elevator and waited for the appearance of his partner, the detective stuffed his hands deep into the pockets of his trousers and said, "Shit." Back at work only a week following his honeymoon, he was not ready for the grinding demands a murder investigation always seemed to make. A few days earlier, he had told his new wife Joan, a reporter for the Akron Beacon-Journal, that he had planned to ease back into his work routine and clear away the backlog. He hoped for a quiet spell before getting involved in any new cases. Monchello had been a member of the department since 1967, and in that time a violent crime in an affluent suburb had been a rarity. He had a gut feeling that the case he was about to enter would be a great deal more complicated than the Saturday night shootings which had long been part of his routine. He had, in fact, never even been in the residential areas of Bath Township, though he was a lifelong resident of the Akron area. His first visit would, no doubt, be unpleasant. For Monchello it was always the same. Though he had long ago ceased keeping track of the number of murders he had investigated, he privately admitted that no phase of law enforcement excited him like working a questionable death. The mystery of man's ultimate inhumanity to man held an inexplicable fascination for him, as it does for most good homicide investigators. That, many of his peers would point out, was why Larry Monchello, at age 42, was the senior officer in the Summit County Detective Bureau. Though his methods were sometimes viewed as unorthodox, and his country boy manner didn't go with his FBI training, he generally solved the cases he worked. He did so with around-the-clock work habits many of his colleagues felt bordered on the obsessive. On more than one case, he had returned to the scene of a crime time and time again, spending hours trying to reconstruct the event, until he felt he knew exactly what had taken place. "When Larry gets on a murder case," said one fellow officer, "he's like a bulldog. He grabs hold of whatever he can, and growls and raises hell, and just won't let go until he's done what he set out to do, which is to put the bad guy behind bars." With the first step of the investigation still a 20-minute drive away, he could already feel the familiar knot of anticipation in the pit of his stomach. But beyond that, Larry Monchello had, for reasons he could not explain, begun to sense that something out of the ordinary awaited in Bath Township. His newly assigned partner, 37-year-old Bill Lewis, easygoing and a practical joker, did not share Monchello's low-key intensity. He had just recently been promoted from the traffic division to detective status, and as they reached the car and he climbed into the passenger seat, he made no attempt to hide his enthusiasm over his first homicide investigation.